You good, Ewan?
I am indeed.
Awesome. Good to see you again, bud.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to be back.
Okay. Tracks like Laguna Seca and Sonoma have become more famous over in California, but one well-kept secret over the years has been Willow Springs. It's fast and it's old school, and it's our venue tonight as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 12 Pro Class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ewan O'Leary. Behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. Also, a reminder that Charlie Mobile is sponsoring the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Charlie Mobile is providing the winner with an Apple iPhone 16 and a year of cell service. Thank you to Charlie Mobile. Well, Ewan, we are here at a track that has gained quite a following over in the California motorsports scene, and it's definitely a track that has a bit of an old school flavor.
It certainly does, yeah. It's no tarmac runoff on the outside of corners. Very rarely there's a wall anywhere near, to be honest. It's just a wide expanse of dirt and a little bit of grass here or there. Very, very fast as well around this circuit in places. So very much looking forward to seeing what kind of racing we're going to get around here. Haven't really seen it raced in a league like this for some time now, Willow Springs actually. So, of course, relatively new to iRacing as well, worth bearing in mind. So looking forward to tonight and seeing what we're going to get in terms of racing on one of three at Willow Springs circuits, of course, this being the largest of them.
So this short little track is going to try and fit all of our cars around it. Not the biggest field we've seen, but still, it'll be tricky. And of the field, at the top of them so far, Bryce Rodriguez, 385 points, leads the way now that we're partway through the championship. Derek Cypher's giving chase, and he's not too far ahead of Logan Grotto, so those two could be squabbling over second. But Robbie Prescott, who is currently the fastest in our warm-up session, sits in fourth. What's going to happen with him here today after he did miss a race at Summit Point, but saw great results back at Mount Panorama, so could jump back up the order if we see him capitalize on what seems to be good speed here today. So with that, practice has what looks to be about 45 seconds left to go. Like I said, Prescott, your quickest so far. Logan Grotto, who is third in the points, sits second on our timing sheets. And then Kerry Brooks, who's eighth in the points, is actually third quickest today. I got to think that this is a bit of a unique track like you were talking about, especially without the lack of slower corners, Ewan. So this might suit different drivers than what we've seen in the past tracks. Yeah,
maybe. I think something that's going to be really important tonight actually is how much each driver's practice, to be honest. It sounds pretty simple, but actually it could come down to a little bit of that. It's not one of those normal racetracks. I think the circuits these days, especially modern racetracks, you can sort of get a feel for them very quickly. Around here, it is more difficult, in my opinion, to get a feel for the circuit. There's no real even curbs on either side of the road that you can use anyway. It's a bit like the Nordschleife in that respect. There's certainly no tarmac runoff, as you say. It's mostly high speed. These cars are not brilliant in high-speed corners like the ones we see here, so I do think a lot of it is going to come down to practice and indeed how much experience you've got previously around this circuit. Because as I say, I drove this circuit for the first time about 8 years ago or so, maybe longer ago. But because it's very new to iRacing, have these drivers have that prior experience versus one another? We'll see here tonight.
It definitely looked close on pace in the practice, and we're starting to get cars out on track. Qualifying takes place for about 10 minutes. Well, exactly 10 minutes, really. And they get 3 laps to try and set their quickest time. You can see we've got about 21 Celsius on the track itself. So not too terribly hot currently. That equates to...
I was going to say, do you want a translation?
Well, I've got it on iRacing. It's 69 Fahrenheit. So yeah, that's relatively cool, especially for a California circuit, but it is in the morning time. So as you can see, at 8:50 a.m. So that kind of helps out in that realm. Still, 3 laps to try and get those tires up to temperature and get a clean one in.
Yeah, I think that drivers will be very glad this race is being run in November, and the fact that it is 10 to 9 in the morning, because around this circuit normally you could get some very, very hot temperatures indeed, and while that wouldn't be a problem particularly for qualifying, it would certainly be in the race. So if it remains like this, they won't have anything to worry about. I still think, even though those are on the cool side, I think we won't have any worries about getting these tyres up to temperature even by the start of the first lap, to be honest, because of the heat of this circuit. So I think it should be fine as we follow Bryce Rodriguez through the final corner just there. He is, of course, the championship leader, and I'll go through the permutations a bit later, but he can theoretically seal the championship here tonight. We'll check in on that, of course, over the course of the hour.
Klaus Nielsen is now coming up through Rabbits here. Looks like he's on his first flying lap. Remember, they have to get that warm-up lap in. It's not a terribly long lap, so they can give it a bit of time, about a minute 15, minute 14 for most of the drivers in the field is what we're seeing. And 10 minutes should give them almost about half the session, really, to get out there if they want to wait and see what everybody else can do. Logan Grotto coming down the hill. This is through Monroe Ridge right here and into Wings Lake. This is definitely one of the faster parts of the track as we watch Prescott also head into there. And that sweeper at the end, that long, never-ending right-hander, I'm wondering who that's going to catch out today.
Yeah, because you watch the line here through with Prescott. Just watch the way he's going to move to the left after initially staying tight through the first bit. Now you go left. Now, and you're staying left quite a long time and catching a very late apex. Wait for the curb. There it is. And then you power out onto the front straight. On that last little run where you're running right next to the left-hand side of the dirt there through turn 9, you've got to be very careful. If you get your left side wheels into that dirt, it will pull you off into the dirt and you're never getting back on the circuit again.
You're going to be off for miles until you find your way back to the pavement. Cyphers with the quickest lap so far. Bryce Rodriguez up to third. Still a good position for him. Like you said, he's doing very well in the championship. He mostly just needs a good result because we don't have too many drivers that are that close in points, although he can definitely be overtaken before this is all said and done. Brooks on the outside of that front row after that first lap, but we're still waiting for what looks like about 6 cars to set a time. 17 of them have managed to put one down first time around.
Yes, and nobody really waiting the length of the session to, because theoretically you could go out now and still do your lap times. So nobody really waiting for the final chance to do so before they make their way out onto the circuit and then see what's what. Brett Holmes is the final driver to make his way out. He's just completed his out lap as things stand, so he's completing lap number 1, and we'll get a view onto the lap times again on the tower in a couple of moments' time. But and there it is indeed. Bryce Rodriguez, you're mentioning there, does have a chance to be caught by the end of the season. However, not tonight. He actually can't lose his championship lead tonight, no matter what happens. And if he gets onto the podium again here tonight for the 5th time in a row in this season, then he would be the champion almost no matter what Derek Cyphers does. So that's worth bearing in mind as we look at this race.
Well, Cypher's doing exactly what he needs to. Still has that pole position. Jesse Lyon and Kerry Brooks have kind of swapped second place over the last couple laps as they improve bit by bit. Right now, top 4 are split by less than 0.2 of a second. So there is not much between them to decide this as we watch Brett Holmes now bring it around through the sweeper down to the main straight. Like you said, you have to wait so long to try and cut down for that apex, but he just glances that inside curb. And where will the 06 wind up after this one?
It's the first time on the board for Holmes. He's not going to be representative, I don't think, of where he'll be by the end of the session. On board with Jesse Lyon now into this final corner. You spend ages waiting for that final curve, but you make sure you hit it because otherwise your lap will be in trouble. Out towards the line now. Cyphers puts himself further out in front. I can't imagine Lyon's going to go faster, but he does go decently quick. It's not better than his previous best, though, and he stays third.
Jonathan Waltman, he is looking much quicker than his practice seemed to show. He now gets up to second place, but yeah, Derek Cyphers has put an incredible lap in. He was about 0.4 ahead of Waltman, but Brooks has just displaced him and moved into P2. And even still, with barely over a minute lap time, he's found more than 0.3 of a second over anybody else. I was not expecting that kind of gap.
No, and that's the top times done, by the way. Top 9 have completed their 3 lap times, so Waltman looks like he will be on the second row at least. Thomas Briggs is still making his way around on the final lap at the moment. He's currently 10th, but he'll do well to get ahead of Jonathan Waltman here. 0.3 of a second is what he needs to find if he wants to find himself on those front 2 rows, and I don't think he's quite got it. He will improve his place. Oh no, he only improves his time actually, and there's a view as to just how large your crashes could be around this circuit with the walls nowhere to be seen.
I think that was maybe a bit of frustration there as he flew off the course. Thankfully, doesn't affect anybody since they all have their own solo qualifying session out there. However, remember that once those 10 minutes on your clock are over, the session is done. You cannot complete hot laps. But as you said, everybody got out there pretty quickly, so I don't think that should be a problem. Brett Holmes, his second lap still didn't see him move up past 24th. And he's about 2 seconds off of Eric Sutton. So not sure what is plaguing the 06, but he's having a heck of a time trying to find speed. And I just saw him spin as well. So he's done with qualifying.
Yeah, it's been a struggle in qualifying. There it is for Holmes, spun around just before Monroe Ridge by the looks of things there. And so he will be starting from the very back of the field, I'm afraid. Will do well to get into the top 10 for a second occasion this season. He's only, of course, managed that once. That came back a few weeks ago at Donington Park, the third round of the championship. But it looks like Derek Cyphers has taken pole. 2.5 minutes left on the session, but as you say, nobody able to set any more times. Klaus Nielsen is still going, and Brett Holmes is still in the session at the moment as well, but they are not able to set any lap times that count. They are allowed to go out and practice as far as I believe, but they're just practicing crashing at the moment from the looks of things.
Having a bit of fun, without a doubt, out there. But you're right, they are allowed to keep doing as many laps as they want. Looks like Klaus Nielsen is going to take advantage of that as he sits down in 16th after qualifying has wrapped up, but he's also practicing that pit entry. And here, not the trickiest of pit entries, mind you, but it does come up suddenly. And the exit also kind of dumps you right into that first sweeping corner at Castrol. So everybody's going to have to really be heads up when we get to the pit window opening up in this race.
Yeah, they certainly are. I slightly fear, actually, with that pit entry that they're going to have to start braking for the entry cone before they're actually off the racetrack, because it's such a sort of sharp entry there. It is straightforward, as you say. It's just a slight jink to the left and you're in. But do you have to stop braking while you're on the racing line? That would be slightly concerning if you're going to end up getting rear-ended or something. And as you say, you are thrown right onto the apex of turn one as well in the pit exit. So it's not particularly ideal in that sense. But everyone will know that. There'll be no surprises here, I wouldn't have thought. So that's a benefit at least. But just less than a minute to go in qualifying. Nobody deciding to practice these things. Maybe they're leaving it to the warm-up session that's still to come, of course. Well, everyone will be back out on the circuit again together rather than the solo qualifying session that they've just had.
Yeah, once they park the car, they're not allowed to bring it back out. So our order is set, and it sees Derek Cyphers on the pole position with Kerry Brooks starting in the second spot. Jonathan Waltman will be on the inside of row 2. Jesse Lyon begins in P4. Logan Grotto, good enough for 5th today. Prescott, who initially looked like he was going to be very quick, was shuffled all the way down to 6th. It's going to be Bryce Rodriguez in 7th position, followed by Joe Sinclair in P8. Lee Peterson starts in 9th today. And then from there, you've got Thomas Briggs in 10th, and row 6 sees Patterson on the inside and Nistor starting on the outside.
Ryan Cowley will be in 13th ahead of Nick Facciolo, with Matthew Jokel and Klaus Nielsen, who we saw setting a late lap time there, sharing row 8. Rich DiMalzio is in 17th ahead of James Franznik, who is in 18th position. Rounding up those who are just less than a second off pole is Nick Malagrano, with Arthur Chan exactly 1 second behind. Nicky Chan is in 21st ahead of Jochen Bakker, with Eric Sutton and Brett Holmes rounding out the 24-car field.
Like I said, the only 9 turns and about 2.5 miles. That'll keep them plenty busy out there. We do want to mention one of our sponsors, Playa Vista. At Playa Vista Insurance Services, they're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance, and technology. With 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration, they're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. All right, we're into the warm-up session. They just get about 5 minutes to do any last tweaks they want. You talked about needing a car that is good in those fast corners out here today. We have to remember, this is one of the 2 open setup series. So I wonder who has managed to find a little bit of a trick to help them out over the course of this 60-minute race.
Yeah, there is only so much you can do with the suspension and dampers and so on to make these cars behave through there, because, as I said earlier on, it's aerodynamic downforce you really want through this corner here. This is the sweeper, that's the name of it, by the way, then followed by turn 9, which is all part of the same thing, really. But as I say, it requires aerodynamic downforce that these cars simply don't have. There's a whacking great rear wing, of course, and there's a front splitter, and it is more sports car-y than the road car itself. However, that does not turn it into a race car that suits this circuit down to the ground at all. It's much more suited through the sort of Budweiser balcony sort of section. That's the slowest corner on the circuit, the real stop and then get on the power on the exit sort of thing. Monroe's Ridge, they'll be pretty good through there as well. But how do you get the suspension and dampers set up through here for these long sweepers like Castro Corner, the opening turn, Rabbits here as well, which is turn 2? That's very, very difficult to achieve indeed. And if anybody has got it down to the ground, you'd say it's Derek Cyphers based on that qualifying performance.
Really phenomenal. Put himself far out of reach of those behind him. And we have seen a couple drivers run away in the past. So first, though, he's got to execute and try and put those laps in all the way through without making a mistake, which, as we've seen, can so easily send you flying off the course and losing multiple positions. That onboard nose shot, too, showed you just how much elevation change they have throughout. There might not be much in the way of foliage scenery, but there's plenty of beautiful mountainsides and hills all around here, and this track definitely takes advantage of that and uses the terrain to really give you a spectacular run.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic in terms of elevation change. There's a lot to go at here. Of course, it sort of looks like we're in the middle of nowhere, and to an extent we are. if I can say here at Willow Springs, it does look quite spectacular, but it is a bit out of town, as it were. Not far from Los Angeles, in case you're not quite located with California and where we are specifically with Willow Springs. But yeah, up into the mountains somewhat, and it really does use those mountains well. I think it uses them better, though, I've got to say. The hill that this circuit is built on in the Horse Thief Mile circuit, which is, as the name suggests, a 1 mile circuit that seems to fit in more corners than this circuit does, over 2.5 miles. It's sort of built on the hill. You go up one side, then down the other after a hairpin, then round and up again through another hairpin. It makes a lot better use of the hill than this circuit does, but even so, there is plenty of elevation change to go out on the 2.5 mile circuit as well.
Yeah, as soon as this track was released, there was a lot of people asking if iRacing would bring the Horse Thief track to this service. There's a couple at Willow Springs. This is called Big Willow, this one, but they've got many tracks that are available. And with its proximity to Los Angeles, not only does it obviously see a lot of very cool cars come and get driven around here, but there's a lot of filming that is done. Hollywood does spend a lot of time shooting movies and commercials and TV shows and all you can think of out here, since it is relatively close. And well, since they're not likely to run a car into anything, it probably makes sense to use this since it's probably a little bit safer.
Yeah, exactly. A spin into the dirt is a lot cheaper than a crash at well, I don't know, literally anywhere else, I suppose. And as I just said, we're not far from Los Angeles here, so you'd imagine they're set up shop very nearby, and it's a quick trip. I've lost count of the amount of TV shows and stuff I've seen, stuff filmed from Willow Springs. Either they tell you that they're there, or they're just sort of pretending and filming around here. Because as you say, it's probably the best place to do it.
All right, looks like they're ready to line up for the race proper. We already took you through the grid. We'll get 60 minutes of racing now here for our latest event in PCA Series 12. And this has definitely been a bit of a unique one compared to some previous seasons, but I do like what they've done with it because we've had some incredibly close racing, especially here in some of the top classes. They've got 4 different classes that will run over the course of 2 weeks. We'll get a little break because we're in the holidays here in the United States, so they're going to take kind of Thanksgiving week off, and then we'll be back after that. to continue on with the Willow Springs races. But this is the first of those 4, and the top of them. This is the pro class drivers who have not just been here based on one lap pace. Remember, Ewan, they decide which class you go in by an average of your laps over the course of the season.
Yeah, it's a good way of doing it, because you can have a good lap or a bad lap on one go at any time, but to do an average is a good idea to put everyone in the right category. And we do have always a really close category here in the Pro Series. I'd say all the drivers in the top 7 have got a decent chance of winning this race, right the way down to Bryce Rodriguez. He is, of course, the championship leader coming into this one. He only took his first race win, though, at the last round at Bathurst. He'll do well to replicate that here at Willow Springs from 7th, but let's see as they make their way on this very short formation lap to the grid, and an hour ahead of us, ready for round 6 of this championship.
Yeah, 3 straight second places. That's what put him in such a solid position here. Drops an 86-point race. I need to check where exactly he finished on that, but that's a pretty impressive drop week that he's got. Pace car is in. They have to wait for the call from the flag stand before they go, and there it is. Green flag is out, and Derek Cyphers gets on the loud pedal. Somebody dropping back very quickly as we've got a 3-wide situation, vying for 4th down into Castrol Corner. They're going to be able to make it through there tidy, at least on the first calling.
Oh, it's Jonathan Waltman, and he's in the middle of 3 wide again at turn 2. Very carefully done from everybody, but it was a great qualifying from Waltman. I'm afraid it's not been a good start. As he said, he went absolutely nowhere initially, and he's just got boxed around a little bit through turn 1 and 2. In towards 3 they go now. They'll get single file a little bit here, but Thomas Briggs was looking up the inside of Waltman there as well. There's some changes further back. Mark Nister's into the top 10 as well. Still side by side as Thomas Briggs tries to work his way around Waltman. Can't quite do it. The 7th car down to 7th.
Not the way he wanted this thing to kick off. As behind him, Briggs getting awful close, coming up and over the crest. Oh. Someone behind them just went off the circuit as well. I think that's Mark Nister.
Yep, it is Nister running wide through Monroe Ridge, and even further off the road, goodness me, goes the 006. That is Mark Nister. Sorry, someone else was dropping back that I saw, but yeah, Mark Nister is the one who's lost out most. He's down to 24th and last.
Well, we complete the first lap, and it was not without drama. Ducking across to the inside. It looks like that's Logan Grotto trying to take 3rd away from Jesse Line. He's going to get his nose in there, but he's denied and barely holds off Bryce Rodriguez, who has to check up as both of them lost momentum.
Yeah, to go to your point, by the way, from the formation lap, Bryce Rodriguez's worst finish so far this season is 4th place. That was at Barber Motorsports Park, the opening round of the season, so that's the kind of season he's having, and that's what he's trying to keep going at the moment, that record of finishing in the top 4 every time. This is what happened to Nister. He was very much turned around there, I've got to say. Not sure who that contact was with, but it might have been Leif Peterson or Nick Facciolo, someone in that sort of region. Klaus Nielsen, maybe, I don't know, but he spectacularly ended up off into the dirt.
That looked like Peterson's paint to me, so I'm going to wager a guess, but apologies if I'm wrong on that one. We still have all 24 running at least, so Nestor able to carry on as Derek Cyphers leads Kerry Brook at the top of the field. It's only about half a second apart between them. They're starting to drop line a little bit, and Grotto also falling back. Yeah, just hooks the rear end. And while there is that embankment there, it shouldn't do too much damage to the car, and he's back on the course trying to make up about a 9-second gap to the next vehicle up the road.
Yeah, he's going to have a real job to get back through the field, I'm afraid, today, as Logan Grotto defends again. Bryce Rodriguez looking strong initially in this race after having a bit of a lackluster qualifying by his very high standards. Looks up the inside through turn 2, but it's a very tight line you have to take through there. No real space to dive at the inside. There is at turn 3, though, and he has a look for the 2nd lap in a row. Can't do it there.
I get the feeling, Ewan, that this is a race where that qualifying was just a little bit more important, and Bryce may be regretting that poor performance. He's unable to get by Logan Grotto. He might have to wait until they get back onto the main straight unless he really gets something special down into the sweeper, and even then, it's not a done deal.
Yeah, it's been interesting so far. We'll see when it really settles down, because we're not even 5 minutes in yet. But I think so far it's been pretty decent in terms of overtaking opportunity if you're aggressive enough. Rodriguez has been aggressive because I think he understands, like you were saying, track position might well be important here, and so he's trying to find it. Jonathan Waltman's trying to regain it. He's up to 6th place after diving down the inside of Robbie Prescott at the final corner.
In fact, he's got a very good run Prescott's got a good run on him. That's Prescott coming up the inside. He'll take the apex away up into Castrol, but it looks like the banking helps out Jonathan. And now here comes Thomas Briggs. He's going to go on the attack, tries to sweep into Rabbits here, but it's a long uphill right-hander, and there's just not enough grip on the outside, at least initially. He starts to come back at him, and then it weaves back in favor of Robbie Prescott. He's going to have to break deep coming up into turn 4 rather. Nothing doing, and now Thomas Briggs is going to take 7th.
He does. That was very well worked around the outside, actually, from Thomas Briggs. It's a long right-hander. Leif Pitchson, by the way, has been into pit lane. That's what you can see on your screen there, and he has dropped down to 24th as a result. He's also come to a stop, so that is a new... a black flag. Okay, so I couldn't read your abbreviation.
He has a boyfriend, right?
Yeah. What does that mean? Anyway, yeah, okay. Drops down the field, and well, it'll be a lap down actually, such as how short the circuit is.
All right, riding on board. He doesn't have a boyfriend, in case anybody takes that the wrong way. But yeah, black flag there, BF for Leif Peterson, serving that as we ride on board with Bryce Rodriguez chasing on Logan Grotto, coming up the hill, as we said, in the first half of the circuit. Then you come right back down off of the hill, and it gets tighter and tighter up through these corners, up through Rabbits here, and then it switches back into left-hander. A lot of compression I found here into turn 4.
Yeah, there certainly is. It's and it gets very bumpy as well, what I've noticed here through Budweiser Balcony. This is the slowest point on the circuit, right at the top of the hill. Then you sort of use the momentum of the hill on the way back down again, on the way towards Monroe Ridge, and then the high-speed section at the very end of the lap. There's the look back from Derek Cyphers. Not as dominant in the opening part of this race as he was in qualifying, but that is not saying much. He was nearly half a second quicker than everyone else in qualifying. It would be unreasonable to expect he's going to do that every lap.
Well, I kind of wonder whether or not this is maybe a ploy to help save those tires a little bit too. All these long, fast corners, that's got to chew them up. Yes, they have the pit stop a little bit later on, but saving some for late in the stint might not do you harm.
No, absolutely, you're right. Especially that long right-hander at the very end of the lap really puts stress on the left-hand side tyres, but you're also leaning on them down here at turn 2, where Rodriguez is having another look down the inside. So, yeah, there's plenty of places where you're going to need those left-side tyres later on, and if you do go too hard too early, you will be in trouble. Don't forget, it's not like a GT3 race where you could change tyres and fuel at the same time. You've got to do it separately if you're going to, as Rodriguez gets down the inside of Logan Grado again, but he still can't find his way through.
Bryce, lucky that curb did not upset the car. You could see how much he was climbing, and they are not forgiving curbs around this track. You can see how much they jut up and then drop off on the other side. It could be a death knell if you just clip it the wrong way. He holds on to the back of Logan Grotto, coming down through the kink, through the wing rather, and into the sweeper. And he's going to try and set him up here. It looks like he's closing in on him. Could go for maybe a bit of an over-under if he can get him offline, but Logan's not falling for it. He sticks to the racing line.
Has he got the apex there, though? I'm not sure he has. I think that's a good run from Rodriguez. He's crawling all over the back of him here. But rather weirdly, Grado is grabbing for the outside line because of the camber of the road you were talking about earlier on. It really helped him last time, although not this time. He just gives up the place, maybe deciding with 52 minutes to go this battle is not worth it anymore. And Bryce Rodriguez moves back up to 4th again.
Now, I would have thought that this much battling would have cost Bryce quite a bit, and he is a ways behind the leader, but not that much, considering it's about 3 seconds to Derek Cyphers. So he's still in within a shout if he's got the pace to try and run down that 95. It's just going to make life a little bit harder, especially since I'm sure it's going to be hard to find extra pace over some of these excellent drivers at the front. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, 2 seconds doesn't seem like a lot, but I think it is going to be taking quite some catching here for Bryce Rodriguez to get to them. And by the way, in the current situation, as I mentioned earlier, Rodriguez would win the championship if he finishes it on the podium here tonight. So that is the battle set up perfectly for us here tonight. So he already knows what he's got to do with 51 minutes to go. Whether he's going to get there or not, that could be tricky. And it sort of depends on the driver behind him as well. How much of a hard time is Logan Grado going to give him now? How close can he stay as Rodriguez goes wide there through the final turn?
I've seen that a couple times now. Rodriguez racking up those incident points. A number of drivers actually are losing spots, just going off even farther on that corner. Giving another look at what brought Leif Peterson that black flag. And yeah, so that's in what they call the orange zone. And that is, we just had multiple cars off, including Nicky Chan in turn one. Apologies, Richie Delmazio also off through there. So a big schmozzle up into Castrol. But as I was saying, the orange zone is kind of an extra safe corridor that you have to do on the first lap if you have if you have an incident anywhere in the orange zone, then you get punished for it. Is amplified by the stewards.
Yeah, just to help keep these starts as clean as possible, we implement that rule. Also off, by the way, in the final corner, we saw it briefly in the background. Joe Sinclair was the Porsche you could see in the background if you were looking at the background of the shot we had earlier on through the final turn. That was about one lap ago, so he's dropped now outside of that, about 11th place. But then just afterwards, this happened between Nicky Chan and, oh dear, well, he's not hit anything, but it was a three-wide moment in towards turn one with Rich Delmazio, as you say. They have dropped down to 21st and 23rd now.
I was trying to make out who those other two cars with them were, because I don't think that was Rich. But yeah, he wound up getting collected in it anyways. But definitely difficult to try and go three wide into that turn. And they discovered why that is the case as we check back in with Logan and Bryce. Bryce still ahead of him. And he has cut down on the gap to Lyon in front of him. It's down to about 1.6 seconds. So he's gaining bit by bit. In fact, last lap was a 15.3 for Bryce. Lyon 15.38. So about 200ths quicker. It's small margins, but it's margins. Let's see what happened with Sinclair.
So Sinclair went off at the final corner, and then as those two were passing him, then he got collected in it. Well, he survived just about, but goodness me, he was slow onto the front straight because he went wide at the final corner, and he sort of interrupted an already ongoing battle, and that three-wide moment in towards turn one didn't end well, as we just saw. Thomas Briggs and Jonathan Waltman, meanwhile, are going side by side as well. Waltman trying to recover from a pretty slow start. He couldn't get through, though, at the final corner. Briggs hangs on to 6th position.
Yeah, a bit of a butterfly effect situation going on there on that whole incident, all kind of cascading downwards. Kerry Brooks, we were riding on board, showing just how close he was getting to the edge of the track, using up every inch to try and find the speed as we check back in with Thomas Briggs. Remember, he was in a nice little fight with Waltman. Well, he's got some friends. That's Robbie Prescott in there. Nick Facciolo has also caught up. 4 cars in a train to try and vie for P6.
Yeah, this is very close indeed. Through the opening sector of the lap and into the final sector of the lap, they were side by side, as I mentioned at the time. Looking up the inside there, up the hill through the slowest corner on this circuit, right at the top of the hill. Thomas Briggs not really forced to defend, but he certainly will know Waltman is there, and now he'll be fearful of the run that Waltman is going to get. I'd imagine he's further back this time round than he was one lap ago when they were side by side, but the pressure is still there for Thomas Briggs, who is holding on at the moment to 6th position.
He's going to have to try and stay perfect, because as soon as he slips up, all the drivers are going to be eager to try and sneak by. And as we've seen, momentum is critical at this track. Yeah, there's a good view of what you're talking about trying to enter that pit lane and how just short it is trying to break into there. Jumping back to Franznik, we haven't really watched him much. He's currently on the heels of Mike Patterson, the fight for 11th spot. And they've got even more cars behind them than what we saw before. That's Jokel, Baker, Arthur Chan, and Nick Melorano.
Well, Patterson's gone wide there, and that's a great chance for Franznik, although he's not quite going to be as brave as Thomas Briggs was earlier and go right round the outside of turn 2. A little bit of side-by-side further back as well, as Arthur Chan goes slightly wide. Melorano didn't quite get down the inside that time round. They remain single file. up into the uphill section now, and the slowest corner on the circuit. This is a very big group, and they're all being held back from the top 10, if you like. Klaus Nielsen's nearly 5 seconds ahead of these guys now in 10th.
A black flag for Nicky Chan, and he has served that one, so he's been in and out. That one was just a drive-through, so he's returned about 23rd. Lee Peterson looks like he has retired the car, so not sure if he had some sort of damage or just didn't think it was worth trying to carry on this one. Coming down to the sweeper once again, Patterson starting to pull away, and Franznik getting more and more pressure from the 19.
And back up to third place, where fourth, where Bryce Rodriguez has been caught by Logan Grado, but I guess third as well, because Jesse Lyon is being caught by both of them. Oh, off in the background goes Nick Facciolo. That's a big spin into turn one. And again, he's not hit anything. Where's he going to rejoin the circuit? He's got plenty of options. He's going to do the right thing and get on just on the exit of turn one here, but he now drops behind that battle, which is now for sixth place. Oh, excuse me, 6 cars for 10th place, I should say, headed by Michael Patterson.
Lyon has now suffered the same fate. He's flown off the course at turn 4. Already we're seeing just how tricky this place can be. Rodriguez is now in a championship winning position, even though he was catching Lyon anyway. So Facciolo almost looks like he just got a little close to the car in front and maybe got a little blind to his brake marker.
Yeah, I was so scared of hitting the back of the car in front. I think that he threw himself on the grass and the dirt to get off the road. So that was not ideal at all. He's now outside the top 10, and Jesse Lyon, as you say, has also gone off. He's rejoined in 8th place, but it's pretty much nose to tail now with Klaus Nielsen for that 8th position. Jesse Lyon, one of those championship contenders, one of the 9 drivers who coming into today theoretically still have a chance at this championship. He is currently 5th place, is Jesse Lyon, and at the moment would stay there based on where everybody is, even with that mistake. And there is the battle for 8th place, newly formed, of course, after that spin.
Real quick, another mention of our sponsor at Playa Vista Insurance Services. They're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance, and technology. With 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration, they're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. Sweet. Continue to watch from above here. That big group we were talking about before, still all in a line with Patterson at the front. There's Jesse Lyon. And to be fair, I've done that so many times on this track. Just outbraking yourself into that corner seems to always chuck you off.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there's no tarmac runoff around this circuit. You can't get yourself out of jail like you would be able to on some other tracks. I mean, there hasn't been many on this calendar that you really can, to be honest. So it's been a story of the season, as Mark Nister is finding out as well. He has gone a long, long, long way off. You see what I mean? When I was talking earlier on about you never finding yourself back on the circuit ever again if you go off around that final corner. Well, that's what I mean. You will eventually, of course, but it takes ages. There is a lot of space on the outside of turn 9 there for you to find yourself in.
Yeah, second time he's wound up off track. This time, though, that was of his own doing. So nobody else to blame on that one, as the 95 of Derek Cyphers is not having it all his own way. Gary Brooks has been hovering at this 0.4 of a second gap pretty much the entire way. And we are into the pit window, but we're not expecting these drivers to pit in for some time. They can probably get to, we think, about 12 minutes left to go before they need to come in, and they will try to go long. So will Kerry Brooks try to use that to his advantage, considering it seems he can hold on to him, but might have to do something different to actually get around?
Yeah, but based on previous rounds, they've probably got another half an hour to think about this. But yeah, it's at the moment proving a bit of a struggle for Kerry Brooks. I'm not so sure he's actually faster at the moment, though. He is hanging a little bit further back than I would expect someone who is faster to be doing. It's further back, by the way. Robbie Prescott's dropped to 9th as a result of going off the circuit. So that's another driver falling afoul of the lack of runoff here. But yeah, Brooks is not applying that pressure in a way that I would expect of someone who is faster at the moment. But as you say, he is lurking close enough that he can make something happen in the pit stops if he is clever with his pit strategy.
And that exemplifies exactly what you were talking about earlier, where he just barely got the left wheels into the dirt and it just carried him off. There's no grip there. You're already putting so much weight on that side and off you go. And so eventually you might find your way back to land. So looks like, Nick Millerano also having some sort of issue with another car. I'm trying to make out who that is. Jochen Baker, I think, the one falling victim there. This is actually unusually messy for the pro class to see this many mistakes. They tend to be all pretty solid, and it's a lot harder to try and make up positions through others' attrition.
But yeah, not on that occasion. Looking at that mess through turn number 3. Well, there you go. They figure it out eventually, but as you say, not what we are accustomed to seeing. It goes back to what I was talking about at the top of the show, really, about this circuit just not being very well driven in this in sim racing, to be honest. Actually, not just in iRacing because it is so new, but actually in sim racing as a whole, there are not too many simulators that have it at all. And I wouldn't have thought that before it came to iRacing, many of these drivers will have driven it very extensively at all. So it's a big learning curve, and it shows that even when you're presented with a big learning curve as a pro driver here, as some of the best drivers we've got in the Porsche Club of America, it still doesn't matter. You've got to do the learning, you've got to do the hard work, otherwise there will be mistakes, as we're seeing here tonight.
Indeed, yeah. In the real world, this track pretty much only sees club racing these days. It hasn't had a major series visited in many, many years. Although one of the most interesting tidbits I found is that NASCAR actually had a race here in the very early days of this circuit. So it's seen quite a wide variety of uses. Here's Kerry Brooks in the 177, still at the same distance up to Derek Cyphers and still keeping the pressure on. Rodriguez is not caught up to them, though, ever since he's taken that third spot. It's about 3.5 seconds down to P3. But as we mentioned, Bryce doesn't need any more than this. Once he's finished in this third spot, that's championship done for him.
Yeah, and the reason why is because of the drop weeks, effectively. Derek Cyphers starts the day 26 points behind. And you might be thinking, well, if it's 100 points for a win, surely that means it's very, very close. Well, indeed, with the drop weeks, or without them, I should say, it would be very, very close between them in terms of total points. However, this current situation would leave 16 points between them going into the next round of the championship, and to lose 16 points, Rodriguez would have to have his worst result of the season so far. Obviously, that's not really possible with drop weeks, if you see what I mean. So he can only lose 14 points next week as things stand. And as a result of being more than 14 points ahead, he would win the championship here with still a week to go. But there's still a long way to go. And I've noticed Thomas Briggs very quick in the last few laps as well. He's caught up to the back of that group now, headed by Rodriguez, if you can call it a group, because Logan Grado is 1.3 seconds behind.
I'm going to hope that I'm not going to give reason for Kerry Brooks to be angry at me later. He's on his best run so far. If he can finish even just P2, that'll by far be his best results of Series 12. So even if he does have the pace to try and fight with Cyphers, you got to wonder how much it's going to be worth to try and do that and maybe just finally get his first podium of the season. But who knows what mindset is in, since he's not really in that championship hunt. Maybe he does want to go for nothing but the win. By the way, Nick Millerano, our latest to suffer a black flag. Looks like he has already served that penalty.
There's been a lot of black flags so far today. I think it's fair to say. We've got 3 drivers 1 lap down as a result and 1 out the race, I believe, all as a result of these black flags. But it's not a very long circuit, so expect to see people lapped at some point through the evening with only 1 minute 15 lap times. It's very feasible that they can drop that far off the lead as Klaus Nielsen and Jesse Lyon go side by side. That's Nielsen making up another place. Many places gained, of course, because of drivers going off in front of the driver, the number 04, but that's a legitimate place. He's made for 7th there.
Oh, Nister just had another off, and once again, I think that was in the sweeper, and it looks like he has towed the car this time, so maybe his day has finally come to an end. And we have another DNF in what has been a an error-stricken race for what is usually a quite clean set of drivers out here in the pro class. But I think that's less a testament to a lack of skill, more a testament to the difficulty of this track. Because as we said, these are definitely some of the best you're going to find in these Cup cars. So there's Lyon again, and the same corner. He's off.
Yeah, that's exactly the same place as he went off last time. Make sure he doesn't rejoin right into the path of everybody else. Waits just a few moments' time before he gets back on in 14th place. But that's a lot of positions lost, especially for a repeat mistake. That's, of course, exactly where he went off last time. I mean, at least he was around other people this time round. It might have been a forced error, per se, but still, it's the same corner where he's come and stuck in the space of 25 minutes.
So there is,
it was on his own.
Rear just gave way on him, and off he goes. Thankfully, he was able to recover it relatively quickly, but the damage was done. You could see cars streaming by, and he has to wait patiently so as to have a safe re-entry onto the track. Your point about cars making up positions made me look. Nielsen, our hardest charger right now. Franznik also up 8, but Nielsen beats him with 9 positions gained, up from 16th. At the start of this race. So definitely a few who have kept it on the island and really capitalized because of that.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, Nielsen hasn't made that many on-track overtakes, to be honest. The one on Robbie Prescott we saw, was it Jesse Lyon, sorry, that we saw a few moments ago, it was the first in a little while, actually, but just steadily picking up the places as a result of spins going on ahead. And that's exactly what you can do around this circuit. It's very good indeed for that, as James Franznik is also finding. He's now in the top 10, just behind Michael Patterson, in a slightly smaller group than we saw Patterson heading earlier on. Of course, we saw that 6 driver group with him at the front earlier.
Yeah, they've kind of thinned out or fallen off. Nick Facciolo and Jokel are just about with them, but it's not close anymore. It's about a second and a half they have to gain. There you can just see them flash through the background of the shot, trying their best not to lose touch with these two, knowing that the pit stops could offer a chance to make it overtake if they get some good laps in, and a good pit stop as well. Remember, you have to execute out there, and some of that may be down to a bit of good fuel saving. If you can be fast and not have to take as much fuel, even if it's a tenth of a gallon, that can make the difference out on the track. Yeah, absolutely. And especially around a circuit where track position is so important. So we will see how that goes in terms of pit stops and their times. But the pro drivers especially are so well calculated that actually everyone might have come to the same conclusions anyway in terms of the maths. We'll see whether there is much difference in them. But that's all still to come, of course. We're not even halfway through this race just yet. This down towards the back is where you're likely to see most of those who have pitted so far for maybe even scheduled stops. Arthur Chen and Joe Sinclair, as far as I can see, might have made their few stops and might be running to the end even from here. Well, we've got the opportunity. Want to mention at Playa Vista Insurance Services, they're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance, and technology. With 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration, they're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. Well, things have spread out a little bit out there, but not between Prescott and Nielsen. We were talking about this fight. Nielsen holds it. Prescott wants it. Prescott down 2. Nielsen up 9. And boy, is he looking every which way, trying to find some sort of opening at the apex, but there is none presented from the 04. No, not quite. I mean, Nielsen, as we were talking about earlier, has gained a lot of his places as a result of other people going off in front of him. And what that normally means is that some faster drivers do tend to come up to the back of it and start pushing for a way through. That's exactly what's happened here with Robbie Prescott, who takes a bit of a narrower line through the sweeper, the shorter run. Then he goes a little bit wider for turn 9, where Nielsen just gives himself that extra car width of security by pulling to the right-hand side, but it does hurt your exit a little bit, as he's about to find out. Will Prescott be close enough in towards turn 1? Doesn't quite look like it. So this will stay the same, but Prescott will not go away here. He will continue to apply the pressure. He really is. He's been making sure that those mirrors are full and making little jukes and moves to try and see if he can shake him off the racing line. But Klaus has been nice and cool throughout all of this. Look at that. Once again, taking a bit of an alternate line, going off to the left-hand side. But this time it works as he carries much better speed. And I almost wonder if Nielsen allowed him through.
Yeah, he did see that. Yep. I think he saw the way that Prescott was driving behind him, thought, you're probably quicker than me. There definitely might be an accident if I try and hold you off. So let's just agree to stay on the circuit together here at the moment. And Prescott goes through into 7th as a result. But Nelson will now be slightly worried about those behind him. Michael Patterson leading the charge from 9th place and may well be catching in the next few moments. He caught by 2/10 of a second last time. You'd imagine with Nielsen letting someone through, he'll be even further losing time to Patterson this time around. And there's Franznik, Jokel and Facciolo as well, not too far behind. Nick Facciolo, of course, faster than all of the next 5 drivers on the last lap because he is coming through after a spin at turn 1.
You see Joe Sinclair moving backwards a bit. That's because he had a black flag to serve. Now, I think that's due to incident points and not something as we do go side by side through turn 1 between Matt Jokel and Nick Facciolo. Matt's going to have the inside, though, coming through into Rabbit's Ear, and Facciolo almost finds the grip later on in the corner, but it starts to go away, and he fades down to 12th once again. Nicely done by both drivers. But, yeah, the incident points are not handed out by our live stewards. That's something automatic from the sim.
That is a very big slide and off-track moment for Jesse Lyon, who was also joined by someone there as they made their way up to 14th place. Who would that been?
That's
Rick
Damasio.
Yeah, Damasio maybe. Or a lap down driver. I think it was Damasio, though, who joined him off in sympathy. But that's a very long slide. And if he's sliding like that with still half an hour to go, I'd be very concerned. The rear left tyre just take a beating, and off goes Klaus Nielsen. We were saying how he was gaining places as a result of other people's mistakes. Well, he's just made one of his own now.
Be careful. There is what looks like a little bit of a berm there, and I thought he was going to be high-centered. We've already had that before when we were at Summit Point, but he gets away with it.
Be careful rejoining the circuit like that as well. That was pretty dangerous, actually. He pulls into the pit lane and probably cuts his losses now, which is a good thing, but shouldn't rejoin the circuit like that, really, on the racing line at the final corner.
Yeah, I'm sure he had the red mist down and wasn't thinking straight on that one. He hits his pit stall and takes his service as we're just past the halfway mark. So not too bad of an idea, especially if he's got all kinds of gunk on those tires. Might as well put some fresh ones on and get back out there. And yeah, 15 seconds in and out. Here's another look at it. And again, just catching that little bit of dirt. Watch him just get the back up on this little ridge here. And I was so worried that that was going to cause him to get stuck, but he just manages to sneak out.
Yeah, that's the main concern with this circuit, not the barriers itself, but the it's very close that was. It's the banks, as you say, that sort of containing this circuit, if you like. So old school in that fashion. And where Jesse Lyon spun twice as well is a real place for getting stuck too. You'll see on the outside of this corner as we follow the leaders here. Derek Cyphers ahead of Kerry Brooks in towards this left-hander. Look at the right-hand side here. There you go. Big bank up there. You don't want to get stuck up there. That's one of the real concerns about going off on this circuit. Actually more of a concern than actually hitting a wall.
Indeed, and that's actually one of the few spots where they do have a wall that is relatively close up around the Budweiser balcony. The drivers don't hit it as often, but you can find yourself in trouble there for sure. Brooks looking a little closer than he was earlier. It was hovering at 0.4 of a second. It's now down to 1/4 of a second between himself and Cyphers. So maybe this is where the car is feeling better. Maybe he's pushing now and seeing if he could squeeze any blood out of that 95.
We will see. Oh, waving around. Cyphers definitely is wary of Brooks behind him, because he wouldn't have done that otherwise. He's just looking in the mirrors thinking, oh, what's he going to do behind me here? Do I need to defend in towards turn 1? More often than not, the answer is no. But look at those last few laps there, especially lap 24. Kerry Brooks really making those strides forward. And look at Cyphers' times, not really changing. So those gaps are being made by Brooks pushing the margin and going faster himself, not by Cyphers making an error. He has another look there, does Brooks. He can't go through on the inside there either. It's going to be very tricky for him. He might have to do it in the pit stops, but he is just applying that pressure now. And for the first time in a little while, I believe, he's looking like a driver who's definitely faster than the one situated right in front of him.
This makes me wonder, Ewan. You talked earlier about how this is a car that isn't as comfortable because of the way it's set up in the fast corners. It also tends to really change the way it handles because of all that fuel being on the front end early. I wonder if Kerry has set this up so it's a little bit of a quicker car once it gets light.
I think one thing's certain is that Derek Cyphers has set his car up more qualifying pace than anybody else in the field because of how much quicker he was in that session compared to everybody else, and how much that advantage has got away really throughout the race. So there may be a bit of that. Kerry Brooks tuning himself in for a race setup. I actually think Derek Cyphers has maybe toned himself a little bit towards qualifying, expecting to just have to hold on to track position rather than make any overtakes during this race.
Which isn't the worst strategy at a track like this. So yeah, so far it's paid off. He's still in the lead. It's just he's got a fight on his hands now and has to do it for a whole 25 minutes if this keeps up. And that could be a real problem when we get to the pit stops. As we watch that battle for the lead on the bottom, but we're going to switch to the battle for 10th up at the top. Jokel versus Facciolo. They managed to get side by side before. Will they do it again? And if they do that, is Cowley in the background there going to become a bit of an issue?
I think more than that, Rich Diomazio is going to become an issue as well. Just set the fastest lap of the entire race. You saw at the top of your screen a few moments ago. He's down in 13th place. You don't often see that. Especially, you don't often see it from someone who hasn't recently pitted and put on new tyres, but he hasn't. He's just decided to go very quick once, and he's gone 2/10 faster than anybody else has gone in the entire race previous to that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the first thing I did was look to see if he had just pitted or something. Yeah, that's highly strange. Jesse Lyon has absolutely taken his pit stop. So if you saw him losing positions, that was just because his strategy is now being played out. So he'll regain some of those. He comes out ahead of Klaus Nielsen. So two cars that have had offs, although Jesse definitely way more than Klaus has had, as we get more cars now coming in. And the battle for 8th shifts up a little bit.
You're right, by the way. Jesse Lyon has had more offs than Klaus Nielsen, but it's great news for him that he's ended up ahead of him. That shows great signs for his race, actually. I think, to be honest, Lyon's 2 spins probably equaled Nielsen's 1, based on how we saw them. It took him a long time to get back on the road, Nielsen, so that might be playing into effect, as well as James Franznik makes his pit stop. This is only the 4th scheduled stop, I believe, out of the 22 still left in this race. We've got a lot to go through yet.
You're right. Looks like Arthur Chan, Jesse Lyon and Klaus Nielsen have all taken scheduled stops. Nicky Chan going to join them. He just pitted in as well. So we got a number of drivers starting to slowly trickle in, but it's been steady. It's not been a whole bunch at once, just maybe 1 or 2 per lap as we check in on the battle for 3rd. So initially we thought Bryce Rodriguez, it looked like he was going to be passing some cars and running off after the leaders. Well, Logan Grotto looks like he's regained a bit of time on him. We got a replay on Brett Holmes. Is this another incident in the sweeper? Indeed it is.
Such a precarious corner. Trying to maximize your exit through there, staying on the left-hand side of the road as much as you possibly can, opening up the final corner, and all of a sudden you get pulled off and into the dirt. It's very, very tricky to deal with as we go on board with Diomazio. Now, this is the battle for 9th place. As I think you mentioned earlier, Nick Facciolo has just got past Matthew Jokel, so that was a change for 9th place as they all begin to get themselves up the order a little bit further. This is the biggest group on the circuit now, 4 cars fighting for 9th.
Yeah, as we continue to watch this, just to give some insight on the sweeper, the cars are reaching up to 160 miles an hour through that corner. They're actually gaining speed coming through the corner because you're still on the throttle through that first apex. So it is incredibly fast. It comes at you so quickly, and that's why we're seeing so many mistakes. And now we get Derek Cyphers. Interesting. Our leader has pitted in.
That is very interesting. I don't know why you'd give up track position in Derek Cypher's position there, but he clearly believes in the strategy. With 22 minutes to go, he's in. Now, the real crucial thing here is where is he going to come out? If he can slot himself just ahead of Jochen Bakker, maybe, and give himself a few seconds margin to that 4-driver group, then he'll be in a good place. There they go, through the bottom of your screen. Has he played this well? He might well have just played this fantastically, Derek Cyphers. Where's Jochen Bakker? He's going to come from on the right-hand side of this picture in a moment. In fact, he's not even anywhere near him. So Derek Cyphers has got a load of clean air in front of him, despite a big risk there, I must admit. 5.7 seconds as it normalises to Rich Del Mazio. He's got plenty of space now to push into plenty of clean air, despite the fact he's dropped out the top 10.
I think this is a great heads up because I went back and looked when they pitted in, and he was coming upon the battle between Lyon and Nielsen, lapped cars that have their own fight to try and vie for out there. So I think his thinking was, I've got a gap, might as well come on in and not get caught up in that traffic. And Bryce Rodriguez is going to agree. He pits in as well.
Yeah, but he's a few seconds further behind. He should be behind Bakker. We'll see whether that materialises. However, I think he will go out behind Jochen Bakker. Now, that might mean the 001 will pit in anyway, and this could be a case, to be honest, of Bryce Rodriguez just shadowing his championship rival, knowing that just shadowing him today will be enough and could be enough to seal the title. But I think it could be a bit of a risk. He's still stationary, 1 second longer in the box anyway. He will definitely be behind Cyphers, probably behind, as there he goes, through the bottom of your screen. Where's Bakker as well? There he goes. So there could be a bit of traffic here.
Yeah, so he just snuck in front of him. But like you said, that's a good point about him trying to just kind of do the same thing he does, because if he winds up in the same position, he's still in a good spot in this fight. As we come back to the battle between Nick Facciolo and the likes of Mike Patterson just in front of him. This is now for 6th because we've had some drivers up at the front pitting, so they'll need to hand those back. Kerry Brooks is also going to feel like this is a good call and pits in, handing the lead to Logan Grotto. Has
he pulled off this overcut? That's the big thing here, because this is effectively the rejoin for the lead now. Derek Cyphers is at 32 seconds behind Logan Grotto. That doesn't really tell us a whole lot, but we just know that Brooks is going to be very, very close indeed. Watch the time there at the bottom of your screen. 14.3 was the benchmark from Derek Cyphers.
Watching to see what winds up the time for Brooks. 14.8, just slightly slower, and it's going to be close, but Cyphers is going to be ahead at the end. So Brooks is actually a little bit farther behind. Not a shock, since he was a little bit slower. And in fact, it was about 0.6 difference cone to cone, I can see.
Yep, so that will not quite be 6 tenths lost, but it will be some time lost. 4 tenths of that in the box itself. That is a 4 tenths of a second lost, but it was a good outlap from Cyphers. I think Brooks would have been hoping that the lower fuel would have been paying dividends for him. In the end, actually, it was the undercut and getting out there, getting out of traffic. Into the pit lane, meanwhile, comes Thomas Briggs. Has he been able to do anything to get ahead of Bryce Rodriguez? Likewise with Logan Grotto. Rodriguez at the moment right behind Jochen Bakker for 8th place, and he's stuck behind him.
And that was a fight for what was the lead, even though they were going to hand that over once they pitted. So maybe Thomas thinking he could leapfrog Logan Grotto as well, since he was so close behind that number 4. But like you said, this is going to be kind of a question mark about his fight with Bryce Rodriguez on top of things. Bryce is just coming out of the final turn and already moving. Thomas Briggs, 13-1. Wow, what a short stop.
Good stop, great stop. And he's ahead of Rodriguez for sure. It's not even close. Briggs has got ahead now. Be careful on the outlap here. He'll be a little bit cold. He needs to get up to speed again here with Bryce Rodriguez right up to speed, and knowing the importance of this as well, no doubt, Bryce Rodriguez. But his pit stop was just too long, the championship leader. 15.2 is the longest stop inside the top 6.
So now all we're waiting on is the 4 of Logan to take his pit stop. Everybody else has been in for a scheduled stop, barring potentially maybe Joe Sinclair and Nick Millerano. Just as I say that, Logan is now in. So this will return things to the control of Derek Cyphers in the 95, but now he's managed to put Brooks a little bit farther behind him. So it's It's not quite as exciting and as tense as it was before, but we've seen how easy mistakes can be to make. So Derek is not out of the woods.
I don't think Derek Cyphers will mind that it's a bit less exciting, to be honest. I think he will be absolutely okay with that as he leads this race, and surely will do in a few moments' time now that Logan Grado is in. And he makes a very good stop as well. That's the shortest stop inside the top 7 for Logan Grado. Can he get ahead of Thomas Briggs? Maybe. He's quite close to Kerry Brooks. He's certainly ahead of Briggs here, and he's ahead of Rodriguez as well. Bryce Rodriguez suddenly it could be on for his worst result of the season.
Wow. Bryce Rodriguez down to 5th after the pit stops. He had the slowest of anybody in the top 5, hence why we're seeing him all the way down to P5 because of that. Got work to do, and he could try and make these passes from here. 16 minutes left to go. Everybody's taken their fuel and tires.
Whoa! Sorry, he's off in the background. Just went off as well. He's more than a second behind Briggs. He's starting to lose the plot a little bit here. 1.3 seconds out to Briggs. He just ran himself off the road at turn 3. Don't know what he was doing.
That's not the way this needs to go for him at the end. He's got to clinch from here. And unfortunately, it might be slipping through his fingers instead. While we wait to see how this will play out, we do want to bring up, of course, our sponsor, Playa Vista Insurance Services. They're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance, and technology. With 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration, they're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. So what's going to happen from here? We do have some battles in the mid-pack, but things spreading apart up at the front after those pit stops. Can anybody make up for a loss of position such as Rodriguez or Briggs?
Let's see, as things stand, Derek Cyphers would be in the game again as far as the championship is concerned. Bryce Rodriguez's lead would come down to 12 points because he would drop this round and take forward a 4th place finish instead. That would be a 14-point game from Cyphers. That would put him just 12 behind going into the next round. And same situation will be present again. He would need a podium to seal the title again at the final round with Bryce Rodriguez, but that's not a place you'd want to be going into the final round. As we have a look at a possible incident here, or is this live? I'm not sure. In towards turn number 1. This is Matthew Jokel making a very good fist of things around the outside. Not quite doing it, though.
It was tight down into turn 1, and that can wind up being a bit treacherous, as we saw. Still, glad we got that replay, because an intense fight into that first corner. Now, as we've been watching Grotto here, Briggs has been catching, and is it just me, or does the 4 look a little sloppy lately? It seems like he's just not quite hitting his marks.
Yeah, I think so. I put it down initially to the outlap, actually, but it's clearly not. He's struggling after that as well. The bonus for him is that it's only Thomas Briggs applying the pressure. Bryce Rodriguez is not getting anywhere near him as things stand, and he's still struggling himself. So I don't know what some of these drivers have done during the pit stops. I'm sure it's just all the same thing, but for some reason, some of them are struggling. Grado seems to be going backwards. Rodriguez as well. Derek Cyphers is struggling a little bit as well and being caught, and Brian Cowley is too. He spun down the hill there just before Monroe Ridge.
Again, doesn't hit anything, but loses time, loses some positions, and winds up down in 18th after that one. Impressively, we still have 21 of our 22 current runners on the lead lap. So it's a short lap, but everybody's been running such good pace that Cyphers has not been able to catch many people. Brett Holmes is the only one that's been put a lap down. Millerano going to be the next one Derek could potentially catch, and he is just up the road close enough that in these 12 minutes, that might be it. In the meantime, Kerry Brooks down to about 0.7 of a second. He is catching back up. We're watching the battle for 3rd there on the bottom between Logan and Thomas. Meanwhile, up at the top for 12th position, that's Delmazio and Jokel.
There's a lot going on around the circuit right now, still all the way up and down the field. There's even battles as far down as 17th in the field still ongoing. There's plenty to look at here in the final 12 minutes of this race, in towards turn 1 in that battle for 12th position. Jokel all of a sudden looking quicker than Del Mazio, the driver, of course, who I believe still holds the fastest lap of this race. I'm not sure where he found it from, because he's not been able to go anything like as quickly again, and neither has anybody else.
Either he got some sort of perfect slipstream or he just nailed the lap, but he'll take it, I'm sure. I don't believe they have a bonus point, as now he makes a mistake, and Rich falls down to 13th, maybe even 14th, as on goes Jesse Lyon. There goes Klaus Nielsen. That shows you how much the mistakes will cost you here today, as that's 2 positions, well, really 3, because Matthew also got by just from a single error.
Yeah. It's very close still, and those mistakes will be punished for sure. Even small ones, you'll end up off the road and you'll end up losing positions as well, and no one will be more aware of that right now than Derek Cyphers, who has got Kerry Brooks closing on him for the lead of this race, half a second. This is a replay of Del Mazio, just seemed to lose the rear on the way into turn 3 there.
Good catch there. We've seen pretty much every other car that had that happen go tail first back into the grass, and he kept it pointed forward. That lost him a lot less time, so kudos on that front, although that's probably a small compensation to him, as his ego is assuredly bruised by that one. Now, Kerry Brooks, he does seem to be just a bit quicker than Cyphers, and it's felt that way for much of the race. Remember, we saw him close up about halfway through and really start to pressurize the 95, but what's he got to do to get around? Where can he do it around here, Ewan?
Well, yeah, once they're settled like this, it does get very difficult. I think striking immediately out the pit lane for Thomas Briggs, or as Grado was coming out the pit lane, I should say, Briggs should have tried to strike then, if not in those couple of laps afterwards, where he seemed to be struggling to get up to speed. Now, it's going to be very tricky for him. I mean, there's not really huge braking zones around this circuit where you can really have a dive. It's actually really quite difficult to even get close, because the Dirty Air's nothing like it is in an open wheel car for sure, but it is present around high-speed corners like these ones. So it's very, very difficult for him to do it now. He'll have to work on it for lap after lap after lap, and then finally work his way through. He'll have to probe away for a while, and if he's going to start doing that, he needs to get closer pretty shortly, because there will only be about 6 laps to go probably at the line here.
Yeah, I can tell you from talking to the real World Cup drivers that there is definitely a dirty air issue with these machines. They do need some downforce to get their true speed out of them. Del Mazio back on track, but now, instead of trying to fight with Jokel, he's trying to overtake on Klaus Nielsen in that 04 in front of him. This was the scene of the accident before. Let's watch and see. And it looks a lot tidier and much quicker from Del Mazio.
Yeah, 2 very quick drivers to be down in 14th and 15th based on what we've seen today, I've got to say. So we'll keep an eye on that battle as someone comes out the pit lane right in front of Rodriguez. That's not going to delight the championship leader at all, as he wants to close in on Grado and Briggs. Both of these drivers, of course, needing to, or are gaining points, I should say, on the current leader as they currently run just up the way through turn 2. And it's very, very close indeed. They're actually getting closer to the overall lead as well, as it happens.
Yeah, that is Brett Holmes. That is actually 2 laps down now from the leader. So he's been pulling off to the side, knowing his fight is not with these drivers. He's just trying to bring it home to the checkered flag. Well, it was 8 or 9 tenths just a little bit ago. Now it's down to 6 or 7 tenths.
Whoa! Oh, goodness me. Del Mazio there threw it over the curb, the about only curb there is on this circuit. Nearly threw it straight into the side of Klaus Nielsen there as well, but it's Nielsen who holds on to 14th.
Big moment there between the pair of them. So Rich is in a hurry. He is maybe a little bit upset about losing those spots, making that mistake. So he's got to make sure he's patient with this and doesn't throw away even more with maybe a little bit of a too ambitious move at the end of it. You could see him sliding there, coming off of Budweiser balcony as the car just dips its wheels into the dirt. Now he misses the apex because of that. The car is a little unsteady.
Yeah, it's getting a bit ragged for Del Mazio. This is what happened. I mean, I don't know really what he was thinking. looking up down the inside here. I mean, this is all okay. Then he clips the inside curve, very nearly goes straight into the side of Nielsen. You've got to try and get down the inside and just trace the curb as closely as possible, but you can't really get over it because your car will bounce onto two wheels and you go straight sideways into the car you're alongside. So it's not a great thing. So they get away with it on that occasion, but they remain 14th and 15th, and Damasio remains behind and looks like he was going to remain losing time based on the way he was driving a couple of moments ago. We are coming up to 5 laps to go right now, by the way, in this race as Derek Cyphers makes his way into the final corner with pressure from behind again.
So this is looking very familiar to the halfway mark. What's happened to Brett Holmes? Did he have another off here? Yes, he did. And that sends him out into that no man's land that we were talking about. Just past the cones, but he'll return. And maybe that's why we saw him so slow as well. He knew that he had just made a mistake. No point in rushing the car. Yeah, that looks like to be where we started to pick him up, being overtaken by the leaders. Oh, Jesse Lyon has a black flag. That's too many incident points for him. He takes the tow to pit lane. The 115 is out for the day.
Wow. That's such a shame for Jesse Lyon. Top 10, maybe even knocking on the door of a top 5 pace here today, but has unfortunately dropped down through a myriad of different incidents, and that is a real shame to see for Jesse Lyon, but not the only driver to secure black flags today, unfortunately.
It's been, unfortunately, a flag used a lot out there, more than we expected, for sure. Kerry Brooks has not seen it. He hopes not to see it. These two have been clean and mean, very fast up at the front. But which is the faster driver? Kerry Brooks cutting it down now to 0.3 of a second when they cross the line. 5 minutes and some change left to go on the clock. And as much as he tried to show himself in the mirrors at about 30 minutes to go in this race, is he going to be more aggressive now here at the end? And he's cut down the gap.
Now, if you allow me for a second, I'm going to get complicated as far as the championship is concerned. Cyphers can still remain in the game, even if he finishes second to Kerry Brooks. But if he finishes second, he can't let Rodriguez gain any more places. I know that sounds complicated, but it is true, so just go with it. It would be very complicated because it would have to go to a tiebreak and all sorts. So he'd much rather just win this race and hold on for the last 5 minutes.
Indeed, but that's easier said than done, as you can see how close that Brooks is now getting up into turn 4. Not a common passing place, but sometimes you can see sneak attacks into there. With him knowing now that he's a little bit better on the brakes, I'm sure he's tucking that information away. That said, Logan Grotto is less than a second behind them. There you can see him on the screen.
He is, and he's really making strides, bringing Thomas Briggs with him. Bryce Rodriguez not able to go with them at the moment, but with top 4 covered by 1.6 seconds. Through the final corner they go, coming up to 4 laps to go here by the looks of things. Derek Cyphers has been so quick that he's pushed this race on maybe 1 lap further than some might have expected here. Just over 4 minutes to go. It's going to be 4 laps. There is plenty of time for Kerry Brooks to try and find a way through.
Tell him that. I don't think he feels like there's plenty of time. We'll see what the driving looks like, as he had a bit of an off in the final corner as well. So he's pushing it as hard as he can. The battle for third might as well be a part of the battle for first. Thomas Briggs is getting close to Grotto, but do they maybe put a temporary truce on so that they can get close enough and have a shot at the victory? They clearly are looking quicker than the top 2.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Let's see if how they work this out, because for Briggs to win from here, it would be monumental. I mean, going from here to basically making a pass a lap, that's surely going to be impossible. So how willing is he going to be to accept a truth from here, knowing that he's not really in with a shout of a win? Grotto's got an outside one. Really, Briggs would only be serving the intentions of Logan Grotto if he were to hold back. Briggs would like a podium. I can't see him holding off for any of these final 3 minutes.
No doubt, but he had a little bit of an off before Monroe Ridge, so that is what cost him that gap that you can now see back to him. He's got to work hard. Both of them clipping the dirt coming off of the final turn. Cyphers versus Brooks. Last lap for Cyphers, a 15-1. Brooks, a 15-2. Loses just a bit that time. What does he have that can make the difference? Where can he try and make a move? Can he get close enough to strike? Because this is a little too far back now.
He is getting getting desperate with just 3 laps to go. There is not much chance now to work our way through, but Cyphers is still looking in the rearview mirror. That much is clear. You can tell by the body language going down towards turn 3 there, towards the corner before Budweiser balcony. Here we go over the top of the hill and back down the other side now. You can tell by the way he's positioning his car. He is looking over his shoulder here. That's only going to make him drive slower here, but Kerry Brooks needs to start really making strides to have a look up the inside somewhere. Even if it's not an overlap, just have a look somewhere. Then you'll start to be working on the move.
Into the sweeper once again. They'll get the 2 to go signal at the line here. Logan watching and waiting. He's starting to lose a little bit compared to what we saw before. Have they picked up the pace up at the front to try and get away from another car being in this battle? Across the line they go, down into turn 1. Cyphers leads by a mere 0.3 of a second. If he can come away with this one, he has earned it. This is amazing how well he's dealt with this pressure.
He has really soaked it up in these final 20 minutes, especially since the pit stops, of course, about 15 laps ago or so. By the way, just up in front, Nicky Chan and Joe Sinclair are fighting for 18th place. How are they going to play into this? Are they going to be caught, or are they going to be too absorbed in their own battle to actually catch and lap those drivers currently in 18th and 19th place?
Both are experienced veterans in this series. I'm pretty sure they're going to be looking out for those leaders when they see those blue flags. So the question is whether or not they'll be able to put that aside for them. Look at how close that he's getting now. Brooks with the best run I think we've seen, but he starts to lose it over Monroe Ridge, and it stretches away once again. I thought he had a chance there.
Yeah, he was really starting to work on one, but is that the moment where Kerry Brooks knew that he couldn't win this race anymore? Derek Cyphers will take it calmly into the final corner here. He didn't use all of the entry. He didn't want to go near the dirt. He doesn't want to make an error because he knows he had that little bit of space. He will lose a 10th, maybe more, as they see the white flag one more time here at Willow Springs. He's lost 2 attempts, actually. Just being careful through that final corner. Kerry Brooks will have seen that. He'll know he can take more risk through that final corner on the very last lap. That's where he could make the difference.
Could it be a sprint to the line at the very end? You can cast Briggs out of this one. He's a 1.5 seconds behind Logan Grotto now, but Logan is still back there hovering and waiting. Brooks getting close back behind Cyphers. They come into the braking of 4, but he's not close enough into there. He is going to look back and forth as he takes a slightly different line, tries to open it up over the second apex of Budweiser balcony. That allows him to stay with him, but it's difficult to pass from here on out on the lap. What can he do to try and take the win away from the 95?
He needs a good run through here. He's got a decent run through the ridge. Now he needs to throw it into this final corner. Throw it in, because Derek Cyphers absolutely will not. He will keep it to the inside here. Brooks has got to be brave.
Coming down to the braking for the final apex. They all slow it up, look for that last run to the curb on the inside, and it's not enough. Derek Cyphers is going to take the win here today at Willow Springs. What an impressive race out of the 95 driver. Kerry Brooks as well. He did everything. He threw it all at him, but it was good enough for second, as Logan Grotto, top 3, separated by just roughly 0.5 seconds at the line.
Absolutely remarkable. Just a 1/4 of a second between the top 2 as well. Cyphers really held on under supreme pressure there from Kerry Brooks. He did throw it in as much as possible, really, Brooks, but without causing an accident, it was going to be very difficult for him to work his way down the inside. And actually, compared to the previous lap, Derek Cyphers really threw it in as well. On the penultimate lap, he was really quite tentative and almost worried that he would end up in the grass and on the outside and ending up a long way down. But that last lap, he was brave again, and it's exactly what he needed to be. He did lose some time, of course, on the run up towards the line. He did leave a little bit on the table, but he did just enough to hold on under really, really high pressure circumstances.
2 more cars. They're still battling for position right at the end here. I guess we'll go to the Charlie Mobile read, but Chan is going to beat Sinclair on that one. A reminder, Charlie Mobile sponsoring the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Charlie Mobile is providing the winner with an Apple iPhone 16 and a year of cell service. Thank you so much to Charlie Mobile for sponsoring this Series 12. Well then, That was a real masterclass down there at the end between our top runners. But Derek Cyphers comes home with the win over Upper Canada Region's Kerry Brooks, finishing at P2, and then Logan Grotto in his home state here, going to be finishing third. From there, Thomas Briggs gets a well-earned fourth. Bryce Rodriguez did not get the best of pit stops and couldn't seal the deal. He still gets fifth, and he's still sitting pretty for the championship at the end of Series 12. Robbie Prescott was behind him in sixth as Jonathan Waltman collects himself back up after a bad start and at least finishes seventh, but not the race that he was hoping for. Nick Facciolo was eighth, Michael Patterson ninth, and then James Franznick was 10th. From there, Matthew Jokel was 11th. Klaus Nielsen got back up to 12th. Rich Delmazio, P13 for him. Joachim Baker, P14, and then Eric Sutton in 15th. Arthur Chan, 16th today is Ryan Cowley, P17. And the last two on the lead lap was Nicky Chan, 18th, and Joe Sinclair, 19th. Nick Melorano, a lap down in 20th position. 21st went to Brett Holmes, 2 laps down, and then it's all DNFs with Lyon, Nistor, and Peterson not getting to the checkered flag. And Rich held on to that fastest lap on lap 27. Kind of impressive, frankly, that he was able to do that. But let's ask some questions of Derek Cyphers and see what it felt like inside the cockpit, having to deal with Kerry Brooks just all over the back of him for the entire race. Derek, we were really impressed with the way you dealt with that pressure. Did it feel good inside the car, or were you just wishing it was over?
No, it's never a great feeling when you're throwing down the best laps you possibly can and that car behind is just maintaining the gap. But I tried to stay focused and stay calm and just, recognize the positive, which was I was keeping him behind me and he wasn't really getting any good opportunities to pass. Willow was pretty hard to pass at, so I felt good. I knew I just needed to sort of keep doing what I was doing and not make any big mistakes.
We saw a very impressive qualifying lap as well. Had a gap that we didn't expect on such a short lap. Did you kind of set the car up more for qualifying than the race, or what made the difference between the qualifying pace versus race pace?
No, actually, my setups were almost identical other than fuel. Really, I mean, the difference is conditions, especially as the day goes on. The track's warming up, the tires are wearing down. So on those quali laps, you can really put something down. You have really good traction. But as the race wears on, it gets harder and harder.
Bryce did not clinch, but it's going to be tough coming into the last race. You did everything you needed to do. You took the victory. What's going to happen when we head off to Monza?
Well, I'm going to be on an airplane, so it's up to Bryce. That's going to be my drop race. I've known that for a while now, so I knew I just wanted to do the best I could. I think second place is probably all I can do. Bryce has been phenomenal all year long. I'm really happy. I haven't finished outside the top 5, which is that's like the best I've ever done. A couple of wins now, so I feel really good about the season. Bryce deserves it if he takes it at Monza, but I'll be rooting for my buddy Logan, see if he can pull something off.
All right, we'll watch out for that as well. And again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
That's his second win of the season. Behind him was Kerry Brooks. I believe Ewan has caught up with the other end of that equation.
Indeed. Kerry, welcome in. Good to have you with us. How are you feeling after that race? Are you coming away from that race feeling that you could have done any more to win? What's the overriding emotion?
You know what? I'm always going to, if you don't win, you always think you could have done something. But there's no question. I left everything out there. Maybe there was a couple moments here and there which, I could have done better, or, maybe I did get held up a little bit. Pit strategy, but in the end, it was a really hard-fought race. You asked me how I'm feeling. I am drenched is what I am.
And it's your first top 5 of the season, by the way, as well. Just what was it about Willow Springs that really seemed to click with you?
It's a great question. I had a really good couple of sessions this week, messing with some setups, and it just really seemed to click. I got a good feel of where I could take advantage of the car and where I couldn't. I really felt I was quick in the first sector, but really just put in a lot of laps.
Congratulations on having that payoff and finishing second here tonight. Thanks so much for coming to chat to us, and we will hopefully speak to you at the final round.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Kerry Brooks there, second place in tonight's race at Willow Springs.
And we've got Logan Grotto, a third-place finisher, ready to chat with us. We have to remember, he was within half a second of the winner at the end, so he was also very close to potentially getting a win. How much were you shouting in the car? Fight! Come on, guys, just battle a little bit for me.
Oh, I was really hoping they would fight and slow down just a little bit and give me that opportunity to just sneak on past. I was getting right up there with them, but didn't have quite enough time to make it work.
It kind of ran out of time for it, obviously. Even still, a fantastic race for you, having started from 5th, gaining 2. The highest driver to have gained positions out of the field here today. So that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it was a really good race for me. Qualifying didn't quite go my way. I think I had better pace than that. But during the race, I just locked in, was trying to be as kind to the tires as I could, and I think it paid off. I think I had a lot of pace there at the end, but I just couldn't quite use it all.
Yeah, just a little bit too little, too late, unfortunately. Even still, like I said, a well-earned podium and an excellent race today. Will we see you at Monza? It sounds like one of your fans is already cheering you on.
Yeah, I'll be at Monza. It's one of my favorite tracks. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
All right, so Logan Grotto finishing in P3, which is where he was in the points when we came into this race. Now, speaking of the point situation, we were talking about that Clean Driver Award and looking for some nice little fun gadgets from Charlie Mobile. Well, right now it is Mark Foley who is actually leading that. And this actually honestly amazes me if we take a look at this situation here, Ewan. Look at that. 3 incidents over the course of Series 12. That is incredible.
Yeah, almost unbelievable. He's not had a single car contact 4X. That's the most amazing thing to me. I would have had a few. but there you go. 3 over the course of, it would be 5 races, of course, complete so far for Mark Foley. He's yet to race at Willow Springs. This is the first round, of course, from Willow Springs. But even so, that is pretty remarkable. 3 incidents in 5 races.
Now, I don't know if this includes this race that we just had, because we had Matt Jokel, and I believe we saw an incident from him at some point, and he wound up in 11th, so that might eat into him as he sits in 2nd, which is going to be hard to make up, because you can't make it up. It's all in the fewest incidents, so he has to hope that Foley has a bad last 2 races of the season. But wow, just something to strive for if you have drivers that you want to idolize here. These are ones that clearly are doing a great job racing very, very clean out there today. So I believe that is going to wrap us up. Join us tomorrow night. We'll be back November 21st for the club class here at Willow Springs. Big thanks goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ewan and Ramiro. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak. Race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.